things we don't solve, many things we don't lose. It in the be like highway.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jamar Jabari, and we are back after about two-week break after the end of season 6, and now we're back with season 7, bringing more music, politics, and culture to you. I'm wearing my dashiki today. You know, I only wear it on special occasions. This is the 100th anniversary of Black History Month. So, of course, I'm going to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Black History Month. I might wear a dashiki, different color, every single episode till February is over. But without further ado, let's get right into it because there's so much to talk about. I only got 30 minutes with this great man. He is the author of Syria, Autonomy of the Regime Change, and also the author of The Case for Palestine. He is a former Pittsburgh University professor, also a lawyer. Please welcome back Dan Kovalik.
Hey, thank you for having me, and happy anniversary, my friend.
Thank you so much, Dan. It's good to see you. I know we were trying to figure out perfect time. You've been a very, very busy guy, and I really, really appreciate you contributing your knowledge and information to this show, man. I really appreciate this. I think this is like the 5th time you've been on. It's so great.
That's great. Well, I'm proud to be here and happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Dan. So I wanted to talk about Latin America because there's a lot going on.
Yes.
And there's so much from Cuba all the way to Venezuela, what's happening, Mexico. But I want to start with one of the frontline, great, powerful leaders who you are also representing. That is Gustavo, who is the president of Colombia. He had a meeting with Donald Trump. Is there anything that you could talk about of how that meeting went? We know that there's lawsuits going on about how, they're still bombing people in the ocean. There was recent one already.
Yeah, it seemed to have gone. Yes, there was a decrease in that. Now it seems like there's a frenetic increase.
Right.
The meeting went very, very well. Yes, I'm the lawyer for Gustavo Petro, the president of the Republic of Colombia, which I'm very proud of. He maybe we should talk a little bit about who he is, if that's okay, because a lot of people may not know.
Right.
He was a left-wing guerrilla in the M19 guerrilla movement. Back, I think, in the 80s, he was He was caught at one point. He was arrested. He was tortured. Ended up being freed under a peace agreement and amnesty. He then became elected senator of Colombia, and that's when I met him, when he was senator. And at that time, he was exposing what was known as the parapolitical scandal, which was the scandal of politicians, very high ranking. In fact, the president at that time, President Uribe, the connections between such politicians and the paramilitary death squads. And he exposed that at great risk to himself, as you can imagine. He then became the mayor of Bogota, and at one point, they stripped him of his mayorship. He got it back, and then he, really against all odds, was elected president of the republic. And he's a great progressive leader of that country. He's been an outspoken advocate for Gaza and the Palestinian people, an outspoken opponent of these bombings in the Caribbean and the Pacific, outspoken advocate against intervention in Latin America, including Venezuela. So he's a real important force, not only in Latin America, but I'd say in the world. And that did put him on a collision course with Donald Trump. He was put on what is known as the OFAC list by the Trump administration. It's an economic blacklist.
Right.
The bank accounts of himself and his family were seized. and basically economic life has been made difficult to impossible for himself. And it looked like,
do that. They seized his entire bank account.
yeah, which by the way wasn't much between him and his wife. It was like 80 grand. I mean, these people are
Mm.
not living high off the hog. They're not rich
Right,
people.
right,
And
right,
I need to underscore that. Were they allowed to do it? I mean, the U.S. does as it will,
right.
and actually it wasn't even the U.S., it was Colombian banks that did it. They weren't even obligated to do it, but what happens is because
The
the U.S.
president.
has so much power
Right,
in the world, institutions are afraid they'll be
right,
sanctioned if they deal with a sanctioned person
right.
or persons. So that's what happened. And after the kidnapping of Maduro, Trump started saying, hey, Gustavo, you may be next.
Mm.
And he told Gustavo to watch your ass. He literally said those words. And so it looked like Colombia and the U.S. were on a possible collision course.
Right.
Gustavo Petro then received a call from Donald Trump, surprisingly, and Trump said he wanted to meet Petro, and at the White House, and that did happen February 3rd. As you can imagine, a lot of people were worried about that meeting.
Right.
Were worried it might be a trap, that he
Right.
could get to Washington and be arrested. Um, so we sought diplomatic assurances from the State Department. We've got those in writing
Good.
that he would be treated, with respect and given safe passage. I actually rode on the presidential plane with President Petro to Andrews Air Force Base in Washington. In case something did happen, I would be there on the plane with him. And luckily, everything worked out. And he was, was a military, entourage there to meet us and to salute us and shake our hand. And so that was good. So we were given the safe passage that we had asked for Gustavo and his entire team. He had a fairly large team on the plane
Mm.
of officials, as well as, of course, a press corps in the back, which is very typical for a presidential plane.
Right.
And he then met with Donald Trump, and it couldn't have gone better. It was nothing short of miraculous. They got along.
Okay.
Um, you know, Petro wasn't asked to do.
Oh, I think we lost him for a little bit. He'll be right back. All right.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Are we live, by the way?
Yeah.
Are we live?
Yes, we are. We're
Okay.
not live, but we're doing a pre-recording, which is perfect. I was able to pause it.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. So what I was
No
saying
problem.
is, President Petro wasn't asked to give or commit to anything he didn't want to. Um, I would say
That's
what
astonishing.
it's astonishing. So what I would say is President Petro was able to make accommodations with the United States, make peace with the U.S. without at all sacrificing his principles, which again,
Mm. That's
I
good.
would say was a small miracle.
Hmm.
Um, and so it was a triumph, I must say. From a personal point of view,
Yeah. What were
being
you feeling
yeah
about when meeting Trump and everything? Did you have words to say to him?
yeah, I actually was not in the Oval Office with
Hmm.
that group. I was able to have a very quick encounter with Trump, but I was not in the Oval Office. That was reserved for a very small group, and it made sense. Of course, it was all Colombians that were in there, and
Right.
I mean, but how I felt about the meeting was that it went great, and that I played a small role in it in helping prepare President Petro, and I was part of his team, and it just felt incredible because I think something good happened. I mean, I think we averted the worst for Colombia and for President Petro, and he flew
Yeah.
home a conquering hero. Very
Yeah.
popular in Colombia, more popular than he was when he left.
Amazing.
And now his successor, Ivan Cepeda, who's running for president, is way ahead in the polls. And
That's
knock on
amazing.
wood, he will win. Now, of course, the elections aren't till May, which is a lifetime in presidential politics, but that meeting had to go well for Ivan to be able to win. And the right wing was rooting against Petro. They've been
Right.
trying to poison the well with the US and blame it on Petro,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And now they can't
Yep.
do that.
Yep.
So honestly, it was the happiest day of my life. I mean,
That's good.
it was incredible. So there you go.
That's really good. That's really good. And there's so much to mine, so I want to make sure I get as much in as I can. Um we see such a good diplomatic relationship right there between two presidents. Even though it wasn't great going on, they stole his money. But there became a solution at the end. Now we're looking at Cuba, where Marco Rubio is telling us one thing. Oh, we're talking to them. We're in talks. We're having a conversation, while they're also increasing the starvation to the point that you know they can't even get any oil in. Mexico is trying to send
You're
more
talking about
aid.
Cuba. Talking about Cuba
Cuba,
now.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
yes, yes. So what? Why can't this guy is just so like you don't understand what he's going to do. Why can't he give the same respect to Miguel Carnel Diaz, if I'm saying his name correctly, the president of Cuba?
Well, I think they view those countries differently. I think, I mean, let's face Colombia is a longtime ally with the United States.
Right.
I think they decided they couldn't let Colombia go and become an enemy. That they had too many enemies as it was as it is in Latin America.
They got a
Uh,
conscience.
Cuba's been a long time enemy of the United States. I mean, not. I mean, let's be clear. It's a one sided
Right.
enemy relationship. Cuba doesn't see the U.S. as an enemy.
Right.
At least they'd be willing to be friends if the U.S. were
Right.
willing to be friends. But it's the U.S. that has considered Cuba an enemy since January 1st, 1959, when Fidel Castro led the revolution against the U.S. backed dictator, Batista.
Right.
And the truth is, the Trump administration smells blood in the water. They think that with this maximum pressure on Cuba that they can overthrow the government for the first time again since 1959. And without the Soviet Union to back Cuba, they feel they can get away with that because while Russia and China are providing some help, it's not on the level that the Soviet Union did, which was.
Hmm. They gave him They gave him weapons, and also nukes.
Well, they
Soviet
did.
Union.
I mean, obviously, well, they had missiles, I guess, that were certainly could. They were potentially could carry nuclear weapons, and of course, that almost led to a world war in 1962 in the Cuban Missile
Right.
Crisis. But yeah, the Soviet Union was willing to really almost risk everything to defend Cuba. So
Right.
Russia's not. China's not. Let's be very clear about that. And I
Right.
think the multipolaristas who portray Russia and China as if they're the Soviet Union are making a big mistake, I think. I mean, China, even under Mao, really never had a very good foreign policy. And even at times, a reactionary one. Supported Pinochet, for example, and Pol Pot. Um, and the Soviet Union was very good and but collapsed in 1991. And Russia now is not the Soviet Union. So um, Cuba, I don't want to say it stands alone. It is getting some help, but it's not the help it needs. And
Right.
I am worried about Cuba. I am worried. I'm worried for the people, first of all, and I'm worried
Right.
about the revolution. How long can it hold on
Right.
under these conditions? Where
Right.
now flights can't even get in. Well, they can get in, but they can't get out. They can't get the fuel needed to refuel, right? So Air Canada, for example, canceled all their flights to Cuba because they can't get refueled to go
That's
home.
absolutely crazy.
Yeah, and you're just seeing this sort of thing. I saw the nickel cobalt mine, and that's a big, one of the big things. Again, if you're a kid and you're learning about countries, you learn that Cuba's big on nickel. Their nickel cobalt mine shut down. They don't have the energy to keep the mine running. Okay, so it's having an incredible impact, and they can't keep the lights on. And when you can't keep the
Right.
lights on, you can't get people health care, right? And you
Right.
can't get the water running, right, and all
Right.
that. So it's a very desperate, and you don't have refrigeration for food. I mean,
Hmm.
think about all the things
Right.
that you depend on for electricity. So it's a very, very terrible situation, which breaks my heart because of what Cuba's done for the world. All the doctors
So
and sent
much.
throughout the
So
world.
much.
Very few people know that Cuba, for example, played a role in ending apartheid in South Africa. I mean,
Right.
that is a little known secret.
Right.
But
During
Nelson
the
Mandela,
invasion of Mongolia, right? During the invasion
Angola.
of
Well,
Mongolia. Yeah,
they
Angola.
they they were invited into Angola by the revolutionary government in the 70s to defend against the UNITA counter-revolutionaries, which
Right.
China supported along with the
Oh
U.S.
shit. Didn't know
Okay,
that.
yes, and in the Soviet Union back to Cubans. Okay, so again,
Mm,
little history lesson for people to really let's get real about the world and the
right.
balance of forces.
Right.
And in the end, they ended up having to take on the South African military, which was also backing the counter-revolutionary forces, not only in Angola but throughout what they called the southern frontline states. And Cuba defeated the South African military, which had never been defeated, even by the Germans, right?
Yeah.
Um,
It's amazing.
and yeah, and as Nelson Mandela recognized, it was the military defeat of the South Africans that brought them to the bargaining table with the ANC.
Right.
And so the first person that Mandela visited when he was freed from captivity was Fidel Castro in Havana, Cuba. And again, this little country of 10 million people defeated imperialism, helped liberate Southern Africa, helped overthrow apartheid. Um, the world owes such a debt to Cuba, and now it's
So
being
much.
destroyed. You know, it
Yeah.
kills me. It just kills me.
Yeah. It totally breaks my heart as well too. I always bring up Cuba as one of the great accomplishments when we talk about socialism. Even though they were being strangled, they were able to bring their doctors, and they were able to accomplish so many great things in Africa, especially combating the AIDS with their doctors. I mean, even as recently, they were able to help Italy when they had their COVID issues. It was Cuban doctors that was on the front lines for Italy, of all places. Italy invited them, and they did such great, phenomenal work. You know, the world owes Cuba. I totally agree. And it's just sad that the Latin solidarity isn't that strong enough to defend them. Like, I look at big players like Lula, and how he snubbed Venezuela and Cuba before in the past. And you're the richest Latin government in the world. Of course, people are going to be like, "Oh, well, if Lula's not going to, I don't know how strong we can be." It's a discouragement. And they in Mexico, like, I really feel that these two big countries, I know they have their own issues internally and they have their own struggles with Trump as well too, but now is the time to take up arms to defend your Latin brothers and sisters. Now is the time.
Yeah, well, yes, it is. And again, look at what Cuba's done for Venezuela. I mean, They
Right.
supported Venezuela. I believe they lost what 32 Cuban soldiers in the U.S. attack on Venezuela, right? Which
Right.
in which they kidnapped Maduro. They killed 100
Yes.
people, and I believe 32 were Cubans
Right.
who were defending Maduro, right?
Right.
They provided that kind of security for revolutionary governments because they had the best because they had to protect Fidel Castro, right?
Right.
So these are the best of the best.
Right.
Um, and they had Cuban doctors there, of course, as well. They have Cuban doctors throughout the world. The U.S. has been trying to destroy that system as well, convince countries to get rid of these doctors. Um, yeah, so so many countries owe them so much, and I can only hope they step up and
Alex
support them.
Suarez said that to go into the Venezuela part. Alex Suarez said that Maduro might be free in March before March 17th. Do you think that's possible?
Well, I saw today, for example, that his initial hearing was postponed. And I saw something. I don't know. I've only seen it once. I don't know if this is verified, but I saw something where Trump said he was willing to negotiate his release. Look, I don't think they want to go to trial on this because they have no evidence against him. Is
It's
my
going to
view.
look crazy.
Right. This is like, but what they did to Julian Assange, he never went to
Right.
trial, right? Because they had
Right.
nothing on him. They did keep him in prison and torture him for
For
five
yeah.
years.
Right.
I
Right.
think that was 5 years. So no, they're not going to go to trial. Now, how long they're going to keep him, I don't know. But I think at some point they will negotiate some sort of release because they'll be embarrassed if they go to trial. Um,
Right.
my guess is though it would be contingent on Maduro certainly not being leader anymore of Venezuela. Although interestingly, Trump recently just acknowledged that he is the legitimate president of Venezuela. So that's interesting. But
That's
my
so
guess it
weird.
would be contingent on him certainly not being president and maybe not returning to Venezuela, returning to a third country. I don't know. But apparently that was
Mm-hmm.
offered before, according to
Mm-hmm.
Rubio,
Mm-hmm.
and Maduro said no.
Mm-hmm.
I think Maduro has shown himself to be nothing less than heroic in all this. He
Mm-hmm.
could have taken a deal. He
Right.
could have. And he didn't take a deal to save his own butt or the butt of his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And that has to be admired. Part of me even wonders if he even willingly gave himself over to save his country, right? I do wonder that. Again, I don't have any evidence of that, but
Mm-hmm.
um, he certainly left without a fight.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I admire him greatly, and I think history will absolve him. In the words of Fidel
Right.
Castro, I think that history will absolve him.
Which it did for him as well too.
Of
Last
course.
question, Delcy Rodriguez.
Yeah.
The rumors which were debunked that she was the one that gave up Maduro, we found out that it was his name General Machado, who was actually the one that gave out the not evidence, the material that they needed to figure out how to grab Maduro. And now we see a government that is still his administration, but they are forced to privatize certain entities of the oil industry. What do you think is the future for Venezuelans now? Under Delcy Rodriguez, do you think Trump is done, or do you think Delcy Rodriguez will help bring in the usher a new era of independency for Venezuela, where they have to give up a little just to get more?
Well, it's a great question. Obviously, the future is uncertain. I think you put it in a good way. I think that is what Delcy Rodriguez is doing, is giving up some to save the revolution. So far, it doesn't seem like she's been asked to give up spending on social programs, for example. But of course, depending on how much oil revenue they give up, that would take money out of the social programs. And
Mhm,
also, the sanctions have not been lifted yet. So
mhm,
it's unclear what the future is. And I'll tell you a little something. Tell you a little inside information. in terms of the meeting with Petro, that Trump indicated a willingness to get rid of the sanctions on Venezuela, but it was Rubio that insisted they stay, which I think tells you a lot. Even though Rodriguez is doing a lot to comply with what the U.S.
Right.
wants under duress, it should be said, right? Because she's being
Exactly.
coerced. They don't want to lift the sanctions. So I think I've never seen anything like this. I don't know of a
Right.
historical antecedent where a government, independent revolutionary government, under duress gave up these sorts of things to survive. I don't think I can recall that is something happening. So given that, it's hard to tell what's going to happen. But
Mm-hmm.
I think some of it may be waiting out the Trump administration. I'm not sure the Trump administration fully knows what it wants to do yet with Venezuela, so we'll just have to see.
I mean, that's a very good point. With not fully knowing what they want to do with Venezuela, because we learned through this chaos that Venezuelan oil actually isn't that much valuable to the world because they don't have the infrastructure that is needed to make it more refining and stuff like that. And even entities like ExxonMobil has said that, oh, we do not want to try and um extract this oil anymore because it's not lucrative to us anymore. We tried before and it was an issue. So it does seem like there's a lot of chaos on. I mean, does people really want this oil to begin with?
Well, yeah, well, that seemed initially the case, though. You see Valero now wants it and some other companies, Chevron, I think. So I think there will be enough companies
Mm,
interested. You're
mm,
right that they need, because of the sanctions, the
right.
infrastructure became dilapidated, but that can be fixed. That can be
Mm.
fixed, and it will be fixed. The
Well,
question
Dan,
is for whose benefit? For whose benefit?
right. That's the big question. For whose
Right.
benefit?
Qui
Well, Dan
bono.
Kovalik,
Qui bono.
th-
Yes.
thank you so much for coming on, my friend. I
You're
really
welcome.
appreciate it for starting off this new season of Jabari Block Media. Great, and I hope to see you again, my brother.
You too. I enjoyed it. Take care.
You too,
Take
my
care.
brother.
Bye bye.
And
Bye bye.
now we're going to move on to our next segment, which is talking about the Epstein files. So we're going to get right back. So guys, yeah, I have the Fragrant podcast here. Yeah, listen, I listen to right wing media, left wing media because I need to understand what both sides are talking about. Of course, I am a leftist, but I need to have a full understanding what both sides are talking about. And this is one, and I go by ratings. Okay, I go by ratings because I understand that the ratings is where the masses are consuming what they're listening to. So this is one of the highest rating shows. And I know a lot of people hate this podcast. I think this podcast is kind of a circle jerk podcast of people that claim they're straight. But anyway, as a queer person, I'm just like, yo, the bromance is so strong in here. And then like, you got this motherfucking trouble on it, then you apologize and all this stuff like that. I'm like, come on. Y'all could do better, podcasters. I could do better. Y'all put that man in office. It's time for you to cry and feel bad for what you've done. Anyway, Epstein files. So we have the countries, here in America, we have outed a lot of names. What is the most shocking one so far this week is so much craziness, but Leon Black right now is the most shocking one because he is the owner of a company called Life Touch, I believe it's called, which is responsible for your children's photos. And I believe that shit. I haven't looked into it, so I'm just going to say that this company's been a long time, decades, and I definitely have photos there from being in grade school, just like everybody else in my generation. I don't know past my father's generation. I don't know yet, but it is pretty coherent to tell you that they have used these photos to traffic children that they have of interest. You know what I mean? I wonder if Epstein, when he got charged in 2008 with that high school girl, he was actually convicted to be a pedophile. I wonder if he saw one of her high school photos, and that's how he targeted her. I wonder. You know what I mean? A lot of these things when you look, it'd be like, oh, that makes sense. But here we are. So we have, let's see how many countries. We have Norway, we have the UK. You know, the biggest story right now from accountability is that the former prince of the UK, Anglo-Saxon land. It's not even really their land. They stole that too. But anyway, Prince Andrew is being arrested. And they're also looking at another guy in parliament who had to step down. Keir Starmer is in trouble, guys. Let's figure out what's going on with Keir Starmer. But yeah, here we have Norway, UK, Slovakia, France, 4 European countries who have dropped the hammer. And I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a lot more too. We also got the Saudi Arabian, not Saudi Arabian, it was the UAE who was a part of the ports, I believe. So there are people being held accountable. And when you look at the America, who was being held accountable here? Nobody. So here we have a Sauger, and yes, he's a conservative journalist. He's from what was the name of that show that he had with Crystal Ball? People know the name of the show. So let's check this out. They go into it. We're only going to show a few minutes of this. It's a very long podcast. It's like 3 hours long. But of course, look, I have to delve in and look at everything. So this is why I'm using the segment.
Is not only just our current president and many of the people who work for him, it's the billionaire global elite. So like we haven't even talked about the Bill Gates STD thing, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's beyond crazy.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why, a lot of people have said that it's
Melinda
a lie.
is hot.
Can we put the Bill Gates antibiotics thing up here on the screen? Right. So I want you guys to notice this is in a sent email. Now, do you remember what I showed you earlier from my own reporting? Because one of the things that Bill said was, this is fake. This is all a complete fantasy. Bill Gates.
Yeah.
In
He
his
sent
defense.
it to himself for some reason.
He sent it to himself. I have no idea why. Well, didn't I show you guys earlier that Epstein routinely sent himself emails?
Yes.
You would only know that if you've read thousands of his emails, which I have. He routinely would memorialize and send things to himself for explicit purposes like this, for his lawyers, potentially for blackmail purposes. And this is the email where he says that Bill Gates got STDs from these Russian hookers and then asked Jeffrey Epstein for antibiotics so that he could secretly give it to Melinda without her noticing. Now, to be clear, Bill Gates denies it. And Melinda Gates, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw her reaction. She doesn't deny it.
She says it's sad.
Yeah.
Crazy. But continue.
She was like, it's sad. Something like that. Which actually, the last time I was here, we were talking about that. And I explicitly was like, I think she knows more than she lets on.
We said this, right? And she got out early.
Yeah,
she was insider trading.
And so
she shorted the Gates stock.
I think she found something out. And by the way, it's not just his cheating, because he's cheated for years. That's on literally on the record.
Didn't they have like an agreement?
Who knows?
Where he gets to go to
at that level. I haven't, who even knows at that level how a real relationship could ever function. But clearly the Epstein thing was something. It was enough for her to be like, whoa, I'm out. I talked about the Leon Black situation, right? Where he had to pay in a settlement. Reed Hoffman, that's another one. Let's Play on the Island. Griffin, I have that email.
I saw somebody bring that up about with
Richard
Reed.
Branson, Bring the Harem.
There's
right?
no way.
Dude, he's
There's no way Richard Branson is involved in this.
I'm just saying.
No, but I saw somebody call out the New York Times for that they didn't include Reed Hoffman in the list of people that were interconnected.
Oh, I think the All In guys. Yeah, they might be right, actually. That's a good point.
Are you talking about Calcanis?
No, Jason, why would you do this? Why would you say you cannot?
Dude, there's just like you can find these videos on YouTube. There's just so many names. There's just literally it's just ridiculous. Like I'm sitting here, listening to this after hearing everything that I'm hearing, and there's just so many names of billionaires and influential people that and the atrocities that these people do. I mean, the owner of the Giants, he can't even say that he was with girls, because that he wasn't with girls, because it's all through the emails of him talking about different type of women, and are they working class, low key and all this stuff. Like what is going on, bro? What is going on? The conspiracies about how we was like, oh, it's a ring of pedophiles. Like it's true. It's true. They're all rich oligarchs. And then we sit here and I see people on the everyday life people. I see some people go, oh, the illegals, the immigrants and stuff like that. I'm just like, y'all are sheep. They got you out here wanting to demonize everybody you can, little people, and you just fully ignore the big picture on like you're seeing how this world is actually ran. Epstein has an email. This is after when Libya was destabilized after Gaddafi was murdered by NATO allies in the Obama administration. It's an email of Epstein trying to get people over there after the collapse just so he could get the resources. He stayed on top of things to make as much money as he fucking can. And of course he can, because he was an agent of Mossad and probably also the CIA. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not just thinking, oh, let's hold all these people accountable that's on the Epstein files that have strong evidence that they were practicing in this trafficking and pedophilia. But I'm also on like, who else is an Epstein out here that needs to be exposed? Because it's not just going to be one, it's not just going to be two, not just going to be three. Shit, it's probably 100 of them. It's just so vexing, guys, to just sit here and look at these reports, and all I can do is just share. And you see these other countries, Norway, UK, Slovakia, France, doing something. Yes, they were late to do something about it, because I'm pretty sure the governments had some type of inkling of what was going on with their officials and billionaires being compromised as well too, just like here. But at least they did something, and they're pursuing to do more. Here, it's just gossip. And we're gossiping about children being harmed by billionaires. So anyway, Breakthrough News, they interviewed a representative of the Detention Watch Network, which stands in solidarity and also organized with immigrants, especially immigrants who are being detained by ICE unlawfully, especially. And there's a big problem, when we talk about concentration camps. This is what's happening. They're expanding all over, and now they're buying warehouses. Our federal government is buying warehouses. I just remind you, ICE is the largest funding apparatus. They get the most money out of the feds right now. They have so much more money than the fucking CIA and FBI. You know what I mean? They got bread right now. So they can do whatever the hell they want. And they're buying these warehouses out. And it's gonna be cages. They ain't gonna build jail cells in these warehouses. They're not gonna turn them to actual prison. It's gonna be camps. It's gonna be concentration camps, straight up. You know what I mean? So that's why I want to play this clip from Breakthrough News, because this is very, very important. Let's check it out.
Awful, and now we're looking at expanding into these warehouse structures that aren't even designed for detaining humans.
I want you to, if you can, elaborate on that, because you talk about, we already know, the U.S. maintains the world's largest immigration detention system, and you mentioned these conditions that are inside of these facilities are already abysmal, and that's of course, in terms of things like medical care, due process, isolation, abuse. I mean, recently I've been seeing videos of there's children in these facilities as well. So I'm curious if you can talk about a bit about the conditions inside of the facilities that already exist today, and then of course, what happens when you scale that system up even further?
Yeah, I mean, I think we know what happens, at we have decades of at this point of documentation about how awful conditions are. People have often reported on the lack of access to adequate food. People are often given moldy food, insufficient food. There's issues with access to clean water, plumbing problems, lack of access to soap, and just the basics that you need to survive. And this is again documented for decades. And then what we saw last year with the massive ramp up in targeting and arresting and detaining and deporting of people is that these conditions were exacerbated and got that much worse. We heard people last year talking about, starvation, sleeping on floors because the facilities were so crowded, not being given blankets.
This is oh, sweet baby Jesus. This is, I just want to remind people while you're listening to this, woman explain to you what's going on in these detention centers. This is our tax dollars paying for this. We're putting plumbers, construction workers, agriculture. We're putting people that have everyday jobs in these prisons, in these camps, putting workers in these camps. Workers. Statistic already came out and said that the majority of the people that are detained by ICE, they have what? A parking ticket? Not even that. Stoplight, ran past it. Misdemeanors? This is what we are paying for. Our tax dollars are paying to house inhumanely human beings just because the government doesn't want them here, just because your grandma hates immigrants. In a country that loves to say how we are proudly made by immigrants. They stole my people and they killed the other people, Native American people. They killed them. But anyway, I just like stop the bullshit. Stop the bullshit. You know what I mean? Like I just wish people just take this with seriousness that look, if they're getting away with taking innocent people out of this country, what makes you think that you're not next? We saw that in Minneapolis when white people decided to stand in solidarity. What happened? It's going to get worse than that. And this whole just ignoring it and stuff until it's at your front door, you don't want this nonsense to come to your front door at all. You know what I mean? They are the secret police, and they're not just going to stop with just taking people and shooting Americans because they killed another black woman. And I just heard they killed a Latino teacher. Just heard about that. Like, and there's another thing that this young lady mentions that I didn't even know. Since 2006 or something like that, that only like 36 people have been murdered by ICE throughout the years. And last year alone was their biggest uptick with 6 people being murdered by ICE in custody. In custody. This is an in custody statistic. During the Obama administration, throughout his terms, people were murdered by ICE. There's an uptick in the custody. And there's also an uptick in the streets. So I don't like stuff like this depresses me, but it has to be talked about because this is the era that we're in. It's the era that we're in. It is our time to deal with fascism. don't think you're excluded. You can try and pretend now, but when it comes home to roost, it comes home to roost. And if you still don't care, I bet I hear you out here talking about, what about these rights? What about, you don't even care about the basic human rights. This all go against the Constitution, bro. They're sending people back to war-ridden countries when it's literally our laws to house people that come from war-ridden countries. What, like Haiti, the Haitians, what they're doing to the Haitians? What's going on in Haiti? And they're trying to kick out all the Haitians. What's going on in Sudan? They're trying to kick out all the Sudanese people. We gotta get it together, man. We gotta come together. Gotta come together. You know, look, next week it's gonna be a totally different episode, but we're still gonna have this conversation. This is season 7. I want to thank everybody for coming on and listening. I want to thank Dan Kovalik, who was my earlier guest. I want to thank him so much for coming on. It's the same, bro. It's the same what's going on. And more, we need to make sure that we defend and protect each other. And we are the only ones that can uplift our community. And I'll leave you out with that. Have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Blank period, yeah. On my black, brown, and indigenous. Gotta holler if you really feeling this. Gotta holler if you really real enough. Other rappers is delirious. Yeah, it's really that serious. Better holler if you really feeling me. I gotta keep it 100, ayy.